The crypto market is having a slight pullback, and it could get a little bit more exaggerated as we do inch closer to Wednesday, the official FOMC day. And I want you guys to understand that volatility will most likely pick up as we do get closer to Wednesday as well. So just be prepared for that. I did say this even in the video from last night as well, to prepare for this day, because again, this entire week is filled with a ton of great overall significant financial events. So as we do really kind of wait for this, we need to focus on some price action. Now, currently, the market cap of crypto is down about almost 2%, sitting around 3.87 trillion. Fear and greed around 63, and altcoin season index around 39 out of 100. This is due to Bitcoin and Ethereum also gaining dominance in the market. If we actually scroll down and take a quick look at Bitcoin and even Ethereum, Bitcoin still around 118K, no major change there, only down about 1.15% in the last 24 hours. Ethereum down about almost 3% in the last 24 hours, actually just dropped a little bit more, 2.32%, sitting around 3,700 and like 70. It did hit 3,900 plus earlier today, which we'll talk about here in a moment. And then, of course, XRP, most altcoins, down a little bit more. Significant today. If you guys actually look at the list here, like SUI is down 8.7%. There was just a major sell-off across the board, and of course XRP is not shy to this. One that's actually down quite a bit right now, QNT, down 7.5%. This is from those highs. Like I said, this one is going to struggle a little bit breaking out of this macro wedge, but when it finally does, it's going to be very exciting. But overall, no major change at all today. It's just a little bit of, a nice little pullback. It could get a little bit more exaggerated, like I said, throughout the week. So just be prepared for that. Have some stable coins. It's not a bad thing to have on the sidelines for any buying opportunities. That way you don't have to wait for money to actually settle onto an exchange, and you could actually move things around. Beyond that, let's take a quick look at Bitcoin. So this is what Bitcoin looks like currently on the 1 month. I actually do have the trading view chart here. So if we take a quick look at this, we're just fighting resistance. The main thing that I'm looking at is either a big break of 120K for a daily candle close over that level, or we retest the low at about roughly 117.1K and we daily close below that. If we daily close below 117.1K to create a new lower low, it would signal that we are going to retest 112K roughly, aka the highs from back in May 22nd specifically. We sweep that high, we probably build a nice little floor around it, and then we start to rebuild back to the upside, and then we get that big breakout to 130K. There's also the scenario where we do break above 120K, we daily candle close above it, and we just continue to break to 130K as well. So we're either watching one of these two scenarios to happen: a big break above 120K with a daily candle close above 120K, or a daily break below 117.1K with a daily candle close below this level. So watch for one of these to happen. Obviously, throughout the week, I will keep you guys posted just to kind of see what happens. We'll have a lot more prices to go off of, but that's what I'm really kind of watching here. Beyond that, with Ethereum, like I said, Ethereum did have that break. It broke to $3,900. It was actually almost $3,950 to be exact, but we are in this zone up here where it's all of the previous highs going back to even March of 2024. We even go back, so they actually don't have the macro chart here, which it kind of sucks, but on the macro, there's still a lot of resistance around this level even back in 2021. But this is what I'm mainly watching for, and there we actually have that price chart from 2021 as well. We actually have the price action. So like I said, this is May of 2021. This is major resistance right around 39.37. We almost got close to that. And then we also have those highs from August and September of 2021 as well, right around that same range. So this zone here is going to be very challenging. We could even throw that in red. It's going to be very challenging to actually break over this level, and it's going to fight us quite a bit. So while we do wait for a big break over these levels, we need to just be, a little bit cautious, because any significant change on Ethereum, considering how high Ethereum dominance actually is, will impact altcoins in, a little bit more of an exaggerated way. So I'm just watching ETH right now. What levels are we looking at for a possible retest of the lows? I mean, there's quite a bit of demand down in like the 2,800 level. I don't think that we go that low. The main thing that I'm actually looking at is some of these lows to be ran from back in November. So like around 3,000 to like 3,400 is what I'm actually looking at. If we see that major sell off, obviously we don't need to have a major sell off on ETH or even across the board, but this is what I would be looking at if we do see some exaggerated sell off this week. But beyond that, XRP, no major change with XRP. We're in a bull flag formation right now, starting a little bit of a downtrend. XLM is showing us a little bit more of that story, right? This is having three, I think this is 3 weekly candles. Yeah, 3 weekly candles in a row of just a downtrend from those higher time frame resistance levels. We retested that high back in January. So selling off from here or having a pullback is not, that concerning at all. This is what the 1 week chart looks like for XLM. Again, you can see that high wick right around the same levels from January of this year. We didn't fully have a close above this level or anything to actually confirm that breakout, but we did get some weekly candle closes above these highs, which is still telling us that we should still be bullish on XLM. The only thing is now is that we are having that pullback, and the pullback, everyone's wondering like how low do we go from here? Well, we possibly have that 35-cent, 36-cent retest on XLM to retest the highs from like March and February of this year. It wouldn't, be out of the question. XRP, same story, right? Nothing too crazy here. The main thing that we're actually looking at, considering the fact that we already have that bullish structure, right? We already have that higher high going off of the highs from, January of this year. Everyone's wondering, like, how low do we go? Ultimately, just holding around like those highs from February of this year is what we're really kind of watching for. If we lose that, then the next level would be about like the $2.60 level to be retested on XRP. And it could happen if we get that exaggerated sell-off like I was talking about. With SUI and even HBAR, they're kind of in a very similar spot where they're having that major pullback from higher time frame resistance, just like every other altcoin currently. And they're retesting the downtrend. And that downtrend is basically the trend line that we broke out of to confirm the big breakout. And most of these charts are actually just retesting it from these previous highs. So, this can go down to like $3.60. I originally drew it on my TradingView chart, but I'm just kind of using CoinMarketCap's. But it would be something like this on SUI where, we retest that trend line and then we break off of it and retest the high from December. The same story would be with like HBAR as well. We're retesting that downtrend possibly. That would be around like the mid 20-cent region before we get that big break back to the upside. But this is definitely going to be a very exciting week because, we have a lot of those financial updates. But the thing that I'm really looking at is that we recently just made a deal with the EU. This was a big one. We have President Trump says the U.S. has reached a trade deal with the EU. The EU agrees to buy $750 billion worth of U.S. energy and invest $600 billion more than previously. So this is definitely a big update. And of course, the S&P loved this. We have breaking. The S&P 500 futures opens above 6,400 for the first time in history after President Trump announces a trade deal between the U.S. and Europe. This was very exciting because, again, stocks were very good. The question is, why is crypto selling off? Well, again, this is what I've been talking about, over the last couple of weeks is that, we will essentially catch up to stocks, and we still have to catch up to stocks. We're still waiting for crypto to catch up to stocks, which is why, we need to cheer as the S&P 500 continues to rally, to the upside. I'm still watching, for the S&P 500 to hit like the mid 6,400 region, almost like 6,500 for the psychological level to be targeted. That way, once we hit that level, we probably go into a pullback on stocks and kind of get a little bit boring. And then during that time, I do think that money is going to trickle into crypto to push it a little bit higher. But there's no concern at all from my point of view right now with this market. I think that this is just a slight pullback. I made a live stream. We did a live stream for an hour today where I was just kind of talking about how altcoins right now are just consolidating. They're just waiting for the big expansion to the upside. That expansion will happen as soon as we start to see, Ethereum really break over those macro resistance levels. So almost everything in this market right now on the charts is at like higher time frame resistance, or it's fighting major resistance on the chart. And we just have to get over those levels. And we typically see a pullback from those levels, which is why right now most of this market is kind of having that nice little sell off. Beyond that, Wednesday, So on Wednesday, aka July 30th, outside of the FOMC meeting, we do have here from Bo Hines, the executive director of the President's Council of Advisors for Digital Assets. The President's Working Group on Digital Assets has completed the 180-day report. It will be released publicly on July 30th. America is now leading the way on digital asset policy. If you guys don't know, this is a part of this review. Here we have from Donald J. Trump. A U.S. crypto reserve will elevate this critical industry after years of corrupt attacks by the Biden administration, which is why my executive order on digital assets directed the Presidential Working Group to move forward on a crypto strategic reserve. That includes XRP, Solana, and ADA. I will make sure that the U.S. is the crypto capital of the world. We are making America great again. And that's actually included in this report. We have within 180 days of the date of this order, the working group shall submit a report to the president through the APEP, which shall recommend regulatory and legislative proposals that advance the policies established in this order. In particular, the report shall focus on the following. The working group shall propose a federal regulatory framework governing the issuance and operation of digital assets, including stablecoins, in the United States. The working group's report shall consider provisions for market structure, oversight, consumer protection, and risk management. And then last but not least, the working group shall evaluate the potential creation and maintenance of a national digital asset stockpile and propose criteria for establishing such a stockpile, potentially derived from cryptocurrencies lawfully seized by the federal government through its law enforcement efforts. So that's going to be updated this Wednesday on top of the FOMC meeting. So Wednesday is looking as though it's going to be a very, very big day for crypto. So we're definitely focused on Wednesday. Is it going to be a sell the news event or anything like that? Well, I'm not looking at Wednesday being a big day for price action. I'm mainly looking at Wednesday just being a huge day for finance updates, for major updates around crypto and things like that. I think that people put way too much weight behind these types of days, and they say like, oh, this is going to pump everything on Wednesday. It's going to be huge. No, it's mainly the fact that if we hold crypto, if we've been around the crypto market for quite some time, Wednesday is definitely going to be a big day for us because number one, we get all of these big updates from, of course, the White House. But on top of that, we also do get a big update from the Fed regarding rate cuts and where they see the economy going. Obviously, do we put a lot of weight behind the Fed? Not exactly, and I'm not expecting us to get a rate cut decision or anything like that on Wednesday. We probably just see a pause, which I'll talk more about in tomorrow's update. But beyond that, the M2 supply is continuing to expand. Bitcoin is looking pretty good. Ethereum also needs to catch up to the M2 supply, which I think I'm going to include in tomorrow's video as well. But the overall market, and I think that Ethereum is a very good example of this. We're just hitting that higher time frame resistance with a sell-off happening. We're having that nice little pullback. This is that boring phase of the market. This is that boring phase where we start to see some of these levels being targeted and we start to see that sell-off. And when I say the phase of the market, I'm not talking about like phase 1, 2, 3, or 4. I'm just saying like this is like that boring price action that we're so used to seeing here and there. But remember that usually when we have a nice run up into resistance, right, we typically see this and then we get that nice little sell off and then we have that big break to the upside. So get through this possible sell off into this like blue zone, and then we'll start to actually get that big break on Ethereum like this. This is exactly what I'm really kind of looking at happening on ETH. And I think that this is going to be very exciting. We're still in phase 2 of the cycle. Ethereum is still the main focus right now. And just like Bitcoin was fighting its 2021 highs as well, if we actually look at this, let me go back on the weekly. I'm not too sure if they actually have that price data to go off of. I might have to look at like the monthly view. Yeah, so they're not. So here we have it down here actually. So with Bitcoin, we did have a big break above the all-time high back in 2021. Now we did wick a little bit above it, which technically, if we're thinking about inflation, we weren't even at all-time highs here. We were actually at all-time highs in November. This is when we officially broke all-time highs. And I know that kind of sounds crazy to say, but there was an all-time high chart that actually accounted for this in terms of inflation. But we hit this level, we hit resistance, we sold off in a V wave, and then we just went absolutely parabolic. I think I could actually see this on the weekly as well, just to kind of show you guys real quick. So yeah, I mean, we hit the wick, we wicked above it on the chart, found resistance. This is right around the same exact time that we got the approval of it was actually in January when we got the approval of the ETF, right? This is from like BlackRock. We got the approval. We sold off, went crazy into March, continued to sell off, started to wick to the upside, and then by November into December we were just going insane. And this is what we want to see with ETH as well. The only issue here is that ETH is fighting the resistance levels from March. In terms of Bitcoin, I mean, we just skyrocketed above those March highs. We did fight it for a little bit of time back here. It took a little bit of time. We actually sold off before we, broke out of it. But once we did, you could see exactly what happened. That's what we're watching for with Ethereum here as well. And then once we break over those March highs, I do think that we quickly outpace the 2021 all-time highs, which goes into price discovery on ETH, which also leads altcoins, to the upside as well. So definitely watching Ethereum here. Altcoins might take a little bit of a back seat, while Ethereum does start to lead the way. But for the most part, I'm very bullish going forward. And I do think that, Wednesday is going to be a huge focus from our point of view for price data and for more updates regarding this entire market. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely will like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord on the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.